Hey guys, it's that time of year again when talk show hosts are querying ED sufferers about coming on shows. I want to share with you some advice from my own experience and from the experience of others I know regarding dealing with the media, because intentions are not always pure when it comes to media. In fact, I would say most of the time it's not. It's more about the bottom line. It's more about the story, what sells, that kind of thing. So a couple things you should be aware of that a lot of people don't know, but everyone should know. You have more control than you think. If, let's say, you are contributing to a journalism piece, it is your right to have a caveat or an agreement, and make sure you get it in writing, that you are allowed to preview the work before it is released and to approve of which of your words are being used and the context in which they are being represented. For example, I recently contributed to an Oxford University scholars text on alternate approach ED support communities, and it's going into a book about media and stigma and distortions and different things, different issues. And I was actually able to read the entire chapter and provide feedback on which content is being used and how, because if they write to you and say, can we include quotes from you? Well, which quotes from me do you want to use and how do you want to use them? So I want to share an excerpt from an article entitled "How the Media Used My Eating Disorder Story to Shock Instead of Help." This is from blisstree.com, and the story was published February 29 of 2012. We first heard about Catherine Thompson when the Daily Mail ran her eating disorder recovery story, claiming that she'd finally overcome her years of anorexia when she became pregnant and decided to put her baby and her baby's health before her body image issues. We were disappointed. This isn't a healthy or accurate message about how eating disorders get resolved. It turns out that Catherine, now 18 months into recovery from an eating disorder that started 8 years ago, agrees with us. She'd shared her story to help others struggling with the same disease, but instead felt the media had used her story to shock audiences and entertain. To learn more, we interviewed her about her experience. Okay. So one of the questions is, how did they get in contact with you? And she said, she was approached by some media organizations, but they told her they would only be interested if she provided shocking before pictures and mentioned the specific weight she reached at her low weight. Very sensationalistic. She explained to them, she said, "I would not do this, as when I was ill, I had found those types of articles triggering and extremely unhelpful. The reply was, well, that's what sells stories. I was appalled by this and particularly upset as I wanted to raise awareness, but not in that way." So I'm really happy to see this follow-up interview where she's able to share her true sentiments. Props to blisstree.com for publishing this, because this is the real story. And people need to know about this stuff. This is what I'm talking about, why you guys need to be careful. Okay, my story was published in the Mail Online, but not as I would have hoped it would be portrayed. It is extremely upsetting for me to think that it would be taken from the article that I had at any point said that having a baby was a cure for an ED.
Recovering from an ED can be an extremely long and difficult process, and one that requires a lot of hard work and effort. I had never wanted my story to come across as me saying I was 100% recovered, or that having a baby was the thing that had saved me. So, yeah, like, things get distorted, and, we need to be really careful. So it is your right to set some standards and get in writing before you even talk that you have some say about what gets published, at least in, pre-created documentary, like not live stuff, but written. But for the live shows even, you have a right to ask questions. And, they want you to sign releases and stuff. Well, if they want to talk to you that badly, they will negotiate with you on that. And if they don't, go figure, it's about ratings anyway, you guys. Okay, seriously. Just be careful. I'm so concerned for people.
Be savvy, because it's a soap opera world, you guys, okay? And the bottom line is not respect for you. Like, I hate to say that, but it's true. And the longer I've been doing research and being an advocate in this field, the more abuse I've seen, and it needs to be addressed. There needs to be some advice for people who are considering sharing their story and appearing on a show or in an article or in a book or, a pre-recorded documentary. With the documentaries, you can do the same thing as you would with an article. You can get a written agreement that you are able to preview the final work and see again which of your words are used and how they're used. Make sure you get that in writing before you agree to contribute to the project. And any ethical producer will grant you those rights. Talk shows, much more open-ended. I can tell you a story from one admin who spent hours during an interview and once on stage. Basically, despite hours and hours of discussion, the things that actually were included in the show or brought up during the show were the most controversial and questionable and very easy to misinterpret outside of its original context. So with live shows, it's harder because, well, it's live. But you can discuss with the producers, what is the aim of this show? What is the goal that the host has? What is the focus? How am I going to be represented? You have a right to ask those questions before you commit to an appearance. In my case, it was in the context of pro-reality, alternate approach ED sites, and the long-standing fear-mongering, sensationalistic, demonizing, stigmatizing effort to condemn this approach as wholly dangerous and demonic and sick and, willfully deluded and, with a mission to make others sick and discourage them from getting well. It's so out of proportion. That's just not the dynamic we see. And thankfully, in recent years, we're seeing more and more studies bring a more positive light on the issue, but still, you will then see 10 more of the same old, oh my goodness, these things are so dangerous and we need to censor everything and delete all these groups because that's gonna fix it. Yeah, that is the context the person they're looking for. They aren't looking for somebody who has a middle ground approach, for somebody who is confident and not ashamed to express that current treatment modalities have not helped and that alternate approaches have. That's not what they're looking for. What are they looking for? One producer so aptly put it: we would like to talk with monorexics. Is there any way you can put us in touch with monorexics? It's a crock of shit. Seriously, period, end of discussion. So Dr. Oz profiles the EDA community online to find people who are willing to go on the show, right, to be exposed. But rather than query the entire alternate approach community or even pro-Ana in general, this producer specifically queries for monorexics. That media-created fear-mongering tactic, right? That these people who really want EDs and they're willfully deluded and they believe it's a lifestyle and it's not really an illness and it's totally cool and everyone should do it. Selective sampling a population to achieve your agenda. Not ethical. This is media spin and it's everywhere, especially in situations like this. When we have producers specifically querying to find the most outrageous among us, the most controversial among us, the most bizarre cases among us, and present them as normatives, that's dangerous. What they want to hear about is the evil, dark, demonic, twisted, selfish, disastrous world of people living in willful denial. Because it's sensational. It's powerful, it's visceral, it's engaging. And at the end of the day, they get their views. Right? Sad but true. So the moral of the story is always be true to yourself and be smart about this if you're going to go forward with it. If there are any questions you might have about the interview process or how to go about communicating with somebody, if you are to receive a letter like this, let me know. I will do my best to help you. And if I don't know the answer, I will ask others. See if we can figure out something for you. Alright, okay, that was it for real now. Much love, guys. Be well, precious ones. Talk to you soon.